Okay, so Michelle, how can I help you?
Yes, I followed your savings goal calculator.
Awesome.
So I have up 30,000 saved up.
Okay.
I'm 52, want to retire in about 10 years.
52 and your goal is to retire in 10 years.
Yes.
Where do
And
you live?
I live in Miami, Florida. So it's
Okay.
very expensive here.
Okay.
So
Do you
using your,
rent?
no, I own my home.
You
So
own
it's
it? No mortgage?
no mortgage.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Congratulations. That's rare, by the way. Extremely rare.
Thank you, Tommy.
Okay. So you make how much money per month net?
I'll say 3,000.
Okay. And your goal, and what are your expenses?
My expenses are I have a Toyota Camry used. I know you said that was one of the
So you have other
things
debt.
that I don't have any car debt.
You have no debt, no credit card debt, no personal loan debt, no credit, no
No
nothing, right?
credit card debt because I've been preparing so that when I got close to retirement, I could use that money for investing.
Hold up. You said what? You've been preparing for what?
I've been preparing for this time so that in 10 years, when I retire, I won't have any debt.
Okay.
I've been
So
slowly like paying off my credit cards. I owed a lot at the beginning,
how
but
much
I
do you
worked
owe
on
now?
nothing because I don't charge anymore.
Awesome.
I stopped
You
charging.
stopped playing the game.
Yes,
So
I
that's
did.
good. Okay. So it sounds like you're doing great right now. You don't really spend that much money because okay, so shelter costs, you have no mortgage, which is awesome. It's just basically insurance and maintenance.
Right.
Utilities, pretty sure that's pretty low. You have groceries, you don't go crazy with that, right? You're not a foodie?
I try to follow what you said. Sometimes I go over because you said I remember 200 a month.
Yeah, but that's relative. You know, that's like a common rule. So it's more
Okay.
like if you're 52 years old, you're making $3,000. If you spend 250, $300, I'm not mad at you. That's fine. Okay, don't worry about that.
You have such awesome ideas. I'm so happy I finally got through to talk to you.
Yeah, you're always welcome. Thank you so much. So, and you also transportation, right? And your car is fully paid off.
Yes, I have a
Just
used Toyota Camry. I've had it
awesome.
now about 10 years, and I plan on just driving it until the wheels fall off.
Awesome, yo,
Uh,
awesome. So proud of you. So, if I were you, right, when you calculated, for example, when you went to the calculator and you're trying to figure out exactly what's your goal exactly, how much money do you want to have by the time you turn retirement?
My goal, because I have the annuity, which I know you mentioned that you didn't really care for annuities, but I did that before. So
Mm-hmm.
I invested quite a bit with the annuity, which is too late for me to do anything about that.
Mm-hmm.
That was like about 90K. So in 10 years, I'll get about 5,000.
A year.
5,000 is a pension annuity.
Yeah.
So I'll get like 5K. It's
A,
guaranteed
a year,
two,
right?
right,
Okay.
5K a year. So that's what I'm interested now in doing. I have no experience with the stock market. So I'm very anxious about investing because I know you said with the M1 Finance, they do the dynamic rebalancing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just anxious about the stock market because
Do you know what that means?
mhm, I just been learning. Really, I've been following you about 2 years, and I've been learning from you.
All right, awesome.
I mean,
So here's the overall idea, right? If you have this annuity money, that's $5,000 a year. That's 416 bucks in income every single month, right? Hope everything's tax free and you're fine there. Now, I'm guessing when you retire, you also get Social Security, so that's also, for example, some extra
yeah.
cash. How much will you get there?
Social Security, I had to take a leave of absence, so that won't be that much. About 12,000,
12,000 a year. So we're
right?
talking about divided by yeah, so that's like around $1,000 a month, right?
And I do also have my pension as well. So
How
I
much
have
do you
my
have in
Social
there?
Security, and then my pension, and then the annuity.
Okay, how much is the pension?
The pension will be about also about 13,000, 13, almost 14,000 a year.
Okay. So divided by 12, that's around $166. So if
And
you
and
add up
then
for his, go ahead, keep going.
I know I was saying also, but the annuity, my annuity as well would be about
416.
guaranteed 5,377 for my annuity. That's guaranteed. Oh, what they say guaranteed, but non-guaranteed would be 10,000. So I have no idea exactly, but based
How
on
do
what I
what do they do with your money? Do they invest it or something?
right, they're investing in S&P 500, and then
Mm-hmm.
I'm Bank of America 50/50 with no cap.
They invested in Bank of America or with Bank of America. There's a
I'm
difference.
sorry, we're Bank of America. I'm sorry, S&P 500 because there's no cap. I had a financial advisor.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, this is a National Life Group, and it's no
Okay.
cap. That's why he selected that for me. The no cap.
What
So
does it
like I
mean by
said,
no cap?
besides the interest it could go. The
Oh,
sky's the
what you're able to earn?
right.
That's what it means. Okay.
Yes,
All
sky's
right.
the limit.
So your only two investments are in the S&P 500 and whatever Bank of America invests in for you?
Yes, he did 50/50.
Okay. So let
So
me ask you a
that's why.
question. When you put money into this annuity, how much did you start investing per month?
No, I did one. I did a lump sum.
Okay. How much did you invest in a lump sum?
A lump sum of 100.
$100,000?
Yes.
You invested $100,000 to these people?
Yes.
Where do you get that money from?
I've been blessed. I had which I want to get into, but I've been blessed. My family, which is sort of a sad situation. Let's just say, I don't know
Someone
how
passed away?
yes, yes.
All right. So look, right? Here's the problem, okay? And for example, you got into this annuity, $100,000. They're guaranteeing $5,000. That's 5% on your money a year, by the way,
Hmm.
right? You understand that? So, are you? Is there like a counter here? Like you're able to like get out of this thing or no? Like it's just like boom, you're in it. That's it.
I could, but it would be expensive, like withdrawal rate. Withdrawal rate.
What would be the expense?
I believe it's like 5%.
That's what you're gonna make in a year. So who cares? Okay, look, right. If you're on the stream right now, you don't have to be in the stream, right? But I'm gonna go ahead and run the math here and run the numbers for you, so you can actually break everything down. Here's why I say this annuity sucks, right? You're getting, for example, 5% on your money. If you invest, for example, in this portfolio, on average, it makes 8 to 12%. Just in dividends, you get paid around 2%, right? So we're talking
Mhm.
about that's like 10%, 12% on a very, very good year. Now, this means, for example, if I were to go, well, right here on the phone, if I have $100,000, right? Michelle, I'm able to just go ahead and save $5,000, pay him that fee, so now I have my $100,000 back in my pocket. If I invest this money, for example, $100,000, and I make just, for example, let's say I follow the 4% rule on this money, that means every single year I can withdraw, for example, $4,000 without losing any of my money. Does that make sense?
Yes.
However, though, because the money is growing at a higher rate, I'm gonna show you this crazy math because you need to see this. So I'm gonna go. Are you able to look at the live? If you can look at the live, that's fine, but just mute it so we can't hear it. Okay.
Okay.
So let me go ahead and see if I'm able to actually pull this up. All right, there you go. So we're actually here. This is, let me zoom in and just cut over here. So this right here is actually like a calculator, right? It's called a retirement percentage withdrawal calculator. And what it does is it tells you if you're withdrawing money, um, at what rate is your money going to grow while you still take money out, right? So let's say you want to retire in 10 years. So I put 10 in there. Let's say you're going to be in retirement, if God allows it, for the next 30 years or whatever. So now you're like 100 years old. So now that's 30 years. On top of that, what is the average return rate on your money? Let's just say, let's go on the low end. Let's say 8%. On average, annual inflation rate, let's go high on that. Let's say 3%. How much money will you have when you retire? Let's say you'll have $100,000, right? Because that's what you actually have. If you break the annuity, the con is I pay people $5,000. The pro is I can allow my money to grow at a good rate without having to worry about them. So what does this mean? How much money will you withdraw annually? Just 4% of whatever I invested, and it's just as a percentage of the total. So let's see the schedule right here. And let me go ahead and load this up, see if it actually loads up. There you go. Loaded. Let me go ahead and make this big, guys, for everyone can see. So here's what it says. By 2031, when you actually, the thing is, it's not, the math is wrong, because you're able to take this money out today, and then you retire. For example, you can invest this money today, and you can basically just have that money there. So it's more like zero here. So you'll be able to retire right now. So here's the right math over here. Let's pull this up. This means if you do this, right, in 2021, your money, right, you'll take out $4,000, and your money is going to grow by around $7,680. So you'll have an extra like $103,000 in there. In the next, for example, 10 years, when you actually retire by 2031, you'll have in that account around $145,000. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So your money keeps growing and growing. By the way, what happens when you die with this annuity?
I have beneficiaries.
Beneficiaries, so they inherit it. So they inherit the full amount that's left over. How does it work?
Whatever's left over.
Whatever's left over. And the annuity is for the rest of your life, or is it, for example, for a fixed amount of time?
No, it's for the rest of my life.
Okay. So look, right? By 10 years from now, 2031, you'll have $145,000, right? 10 years after that, you'll have, for example, $210,000. 10 years after that, let's say, for example, that's your last year in this world or whatever, you'll leave, for example, your family like around $330,000. You see what I'm saying? So the annuity is cool. It just doesn't make sense if you know what you're doing with the market. And you might be like, Tommy, but you know, because you probably did this because you're like, oh, I don't know what I'm doing, so I just want to be safe and make sure I have some income. I can guarantee that, right? I understand that 100%.
Exactly, because I don't know anything about stock market, and that's what I was concerned about. So that's why I selected the annuity.
What field are you coming from?
Teacher.
So what do you know when somebody doesn't know something? What do they have to do?
Read.
Exactly, right? They got to go out there and find out.
Yes.
So sometimes you don't know where to go, and that's fine, right? If you don't know, doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means you just don't know. I didn't know anything 6 years ago. So the book you want to read is a very simple, short book. It's called The Little Book About Common Sense Investing by John C. Bogle. Don't let the name fool you. The guy that wrote that book was the guy that created the index funds, right? So that book will tell you exactly how investing basically works as far as, for example, in index funds. When I tell you, for example, Michelle, that the portfolio that I'm giving you, it's not my portfolio. It's a portfolio that comes from people that have won, for example, rewards based on it. It's called modern portfolio theory. So it comes from them. So it's kind of like proven. So the way it works is we have a lot of fall throughs, meaning, okay, just off the bat, if we run the numbers here, because sometimes people can be very scared, but the scared isn't really justified, because if you're getting $1,000 from Social Security per month, and you're also getting $1,066 from your pension, that's $2,100. Shelter, you have no mortgage anymore. Utilities not really that crazy. Groceries not really that crazy, and your car is fully paid off. Do you spend more than $2,000 per month?
No, just like the thing about living in Miami, the property taxes are very expensive. So I'll say like 1 month out of the 12 months, it might be like about $4,000 because the property taxes are so expensive.
You mean you get charged how much per month on average? Because you're probably paying it all at once for like every quarter. Monthly, what is it?
Monthly, about $3,000.
You're paying $3,000 a month in property taxes?
No, property taxes are once a year, $3,000.
Yeah, once a year. So stop doing the math in a lump sum. Do the math divided by 12 and save the money. So $3,000 divided by 12, that's only $250. So if you start preparing for that, that means when it comes, it won't seem like a big bill. right? And your
Right.
insurance is like probably like $100, right? What's your insurance on your property?
Insurance on my property is, oh, thinking, same amount. This, because of the hurricanes in
Yeah.
the Miami, home insurance is expensive, so same amount, 3,000.
So let's say $500 a month. That's your real cost of shelter right now. Okay? That's the
Okay.
real cost. You're not, and it's not that much. The reason it sounds like it's so much is because basically you're waiting for the, like, to pay it at once when it actually pops up, and you're like, oh, I don't got that money. So if you just set aside $500 every month, when that comes once a year, you have the money there. It's just $500. Utilities. How much do you spend? Lights, water, gas, phone bill, internet. How much?
Hey,
Rough
lights,
estimate.
you mean all together?
Yes.
I'll say about, I had it written down, 400.
Okay. Groceries. You're spending, like, let's just say $300, right? Give yourself a little break. $300. Transportation, insurance, and gas and maintenance. How much per month?
About, for the year, I know with my car insurance is 600, I know for the year.
Okay.
And gas, I'll say about for a year, no more than 200.
For what? Maintenance or
Yes.
gas?
I'll say for gas.
You spend $200 a year on gas?
200, 300, because I work from home.
Oh, that's why I'm like, where are you driving? What are you driving on water? Okay. All right. So look, right? Overall, it's like $250 on this car, right? Let's just say $300 there. Overall, when you break it down, $500 on shelter, $400 on utilities, that's $900. $300 on groceries, that is $1,200, and $300 in your car, that is around $1,500 total. So even just from the pension and, from example, from Social Security, you have an extra left over of around $500. You have a surplus. So you really have nothing to worry about. You see what I'm saying? The big risk here is, Tommy, I don't want to lose this $100,000 or my $30,000. Together you have $130,000. If you want to be more conservative, that's fine. But remember, what you're investing into is the S&P 500, which you're doing with that annuity. That basically means the 500 largest companies in the US. So that means, for example, the Teslas, the Amazons, the Googles, the Microsofts. That's what you're investing into in the S&P 500. You're also investing, for example, into the international companies. For example, like the Nelquik, the Toyota, like all those big companies international. You invest in those also, like in the Europe industry. Also, the small cap. Small cap basically means like you're investing into companies that are like smaller, so they have more potential for growth, but also more potential for failure. But again, it's an index, meaning you have hundreds of different companies in there. So meaning you're very well diversified. Corporate bonds, that's basically companies, you lend the money to companies. So if they do go bankrupt, they have to pay you first by law. Treasury bonds, that's basically you lending money to the government, right? So if they can't pay you, who cares about how much money you have? It's all over by that point. On top of that, REITs, that's you diversifying. For example, if the stock market is down, that's going to be fine, because usually real estate and the stock market don't really relate that much. And also the bonds too. And then lastly, emerging industry. That's like countries that are just coming up, very, very risky, high potential for growth, but it's only like around 4% of your whole portfolio. That portfolio, no matter how you look at it, is so diversified to the point where if things really go, and by the way, it's so diversified to the point that what your financial advisor recommended for you and all this other stuff is basically the same thing I'm telling you, but you're doing it yourself. Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes
It's the same thing. Look at the investments. It's the same thing, right? It's not like it's not like I'm telling you anything different. I'm not an original person. I find things at work and then I give it to you in the most simplest way possible. That's my job here. It's just a translator. So if you're doing that, and I'm telling you, yo, you invest 130K. How do you make sure things don't go crazy? Well, there's several factors here. Instead of investing 130K all at once, you can invest that, for example, over the next 5 years or so, or 4 years or 3 years. Because again, you're not going to need this money right now. You're not going to retire right now. So
Right.
this means $130,000 divided, let's just say, by a car payment, right? So a car payment is usually like 60 months. That's 5 years. That's around $2,160 in this portfolio being invested over a 5-year period. By that point, what would happen is basically, by the way, there's different stats in this that show basically lump sum versus like dollar cost average. It's not really that big of a difference, but if the market right now is overvalued, because the problem is, right, Michelle, to break it down in an easy way, if you buy a, let's just say, a Gucci purse, right, for $130,000, because basically that's what it's selling for right now. But then the price goes down tomorrow, and now it's only worth $100K, right? But it's an investment. So this means now you have to wait until that investment goes all the way up. So instead of doing that, right, what you do is you trickle your money into it. So as it goes up, as it goes down, as it goes up, as it goes down, you're investing into all of it, right? What does that
Right.
give you? It gives you the average price. So that's one way to protect yourself. The
Okay.
second way is going to be, for example, the 4% rule. The 4% rule basically says, the last thing I want to see, Michelle, is you broke, or like, I made this massive mistake, so that's why I try to teach you everything, right? The 4% rule basically says, if I remove 4% of my portfolio every single year, in order for me to run out of money, we have to go through, it matches depression or recession, right? And it
Right.
has to last over 33 years. Because only after 33 years is when you're actually going to run out of money. And that's basically, for example, 30 years from now, you'll be, for example, like, what is it, like, 80, 87, right?
Right.
So it's like, what are the odds that's gonna happen? It happened, for example, back in the 1926, I think it was. That's like 25 years. But like, the odds are very, very low. And it's not like you're not only investing, for example, that's like your only egg, because in reality, you also have like your pension and your social security, right? So you're never really gonna need that money. That money's just gonna keep growing and growing and growing and growing. And that's just like icing on the cake. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. I have a question, Tommy, about the dynamic
Rebalancing. Okay.
rebalancing. Could you explain that for me
So that's
quickly?
the way that we protect ourselves also, right? Because the portfolio I share with you, for example, in M1 Finance, is a portfolio that has a perfect balance. So it might be like 10% here, 10% here, 38% here, 4% here. You notice that if you ever checked it out?
Yes, I did the calculator, the one that
Okay.
you just showed.
Mm-hmm.
I follow everything you said, take notes and everything.
Okay, awesome. So the big problem is, in economics, you have industries that grow, for example, at a faster rate. So one year you might have, for example, the stock market is blowing up. So all of a sudden, your portfolio goes from 80% stocks and 20% bonds to now it goes to, for example, 90% stocks and 10% bonds, because the stocks has just been growing and growing so much to the point where it's just overtaking your whole portfolio. Now that's great, but the problem is that if you do have a crash, you're heavily leveraged on one side. That's not what you want. So rebalancing, in a sense, is just selling the stocks or investments that are overweight because they have too much money in them, and using that same money to buy the ones that are basically underweight. That's all you're doing to bring back the balance. Now, naturally, what happens here is that you always sell at the perfect time, because whenever you sell, you're selling high. Whenever you're buying low. How is this possible? Because you're selling, it's because one part of your portfolio is doing great. So guess what? You're selling that at a high point because it's overvalued, right? So you sell there, use that money to buy the other ones that are basically underweight. Why are they underweight? Because basically they're selling for a low price. So when you buy there, you're also buying at a discount. Now, the problem with this is usually that it does incur taxes because you are selling, right? Doesn't matter. You're selling. If you have capital gains on that, you will get taxed. So what M1 Finance basically does is they do dynamic rebalancing. It's a fancy word to say that whenever you invest, for example, $1,000, they invest that money accordingly. So meaning, if they see that these investors over here are overweight, they don't invest into those. They invest into the ones that are underweight. So naturally, over time, as you keep investing, it brings your portfolio back to a normal standard of what you actually wanted, back to 80-20. That's what it does. And that way, you never have to sell. Does that make sense?
That makes sense. I was anxious about that part because I thought that I would have to do that.
Yeah, but even if you do, right, don't get anxious about anything. Even if you do, M1 Finance is just one button, right? It's just like you click rebalance and it does it for you automatically, just like that. If you ever have, because if you, for example, if you're doing dynamic rebalancing, it works great as long as you're putting more and more money into it. But if you get to a point where basically your investments are growing at such a high rate and you can't invest that much money to keep up with it, in reality, it's fine to rebalance every 18 months, which is fine. It's just like one button. It's not like a big deal. It's just, it's like a good thing that you're actually doing. It's like cutting the weeds to allow the flowers to actually grow. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so inside the app is something that you select when you get to rebalance.
Yes.
Are they doing it? So is M1 Finance automatically doing the dynamic?
Yes. You can set it up. You can set it up so they can actually do it for you automatically. Yes, you can set it up.
Okay.
Yeah. So everything works. But remember, right? If I'm your age right now, and I plan to get out the game, for example, 10 years from now, it's fine. But I'm gonna keep investing, for example, into my retirement accounts. M1 Finance potentially is going to be, if you get out of this annuity, which you can, right? Because you told me that you pay that $5,000 and you use that, and then you use that $100,000, you can put it into M1 Finance and just basically drip it into your investments step by step. Because remember, if your money grows at 8%, that's $8,000. But in reality, you're going to take out 4%. So you're going to have more and more money. By the way, there was one more thing I didn't show you here, because there's another way to actually use the 4% rule. Because what I did was I took 4% of 100K no matter what the amount was. But if I wanted to, I could take 4% of the initial total, like the new total. So that means every single year, if your investments are basically growing, so is your passive income amount. So I'm gonna go back and cut into the live so you can actually see this. So over here, we're back over here, right? You get to retire. You're gonna use this money 0 years from now. You're gonna be retired for 30 years if God allows it. Average return is 8%. Average annual inflation 3%. Amount of money is $100,000. But the difference is, it's not going to be as a percentage of initial total, but it's going to be, for example, as a percentage of annual beginning balance. Meaning, if I invest $100,000, but I just made 8%, that's an extra $8,000. I take 4% from that $108,000, not from the $100,000. That way, I get more money, basically. Does that make sense?
Repeat that again.
So, for example, you can use the 4% rule in different ways, right? The first way is you take 4%. By the way, the 4% basically means you're withdrawing 4% from your investments in order to allow your money to grow and you never run out of money, right? That's what you're doing. You take that money out, for example, usually in the beginning of the year, take out the full 4%, take that money out, boom, you have it, right? That's how you do it. So you can either say, well, I have 100K invested. I'll take out 4% every year for the rest of my life. So every year, your money is obviously growing. So 1 year you have $100,000, but next year, if you make 8%, you have $108,000. But you still take out just 4% from the $100,000. So you still just get $4,000. However, some people, they say, well, I'll take 4% from whatever the new amount is. So whatever my old money is, plus my profits, I'll take 4% from that number. Does that make sense?
Got it.
Okay. So this is what it looks like. Let me just cut back here. So this right here is what it actually looks like. So if I click here as a percentage of the annual beginning balance, and I show you guys this, it says, well, your first year you get 4,000. Second year you get 4,100. Third year you get 4,300, then 4,600. Then, for example, by year 10, you're getting an extra, for example, $5,741. 10 years from then, you get $7,948, which is basically every year you get more and more money. The con is that basically, by the time you actually meet your demise, obviously you won't have $300,000 in there. You'll have, for example, $200,000 in there because you're taking away, for example, a higher amount. But this way, it benefits you a lot more because you're the person that needs to be enjoying your money the most, not your kids or none of that nonsense. Because if you do a good job with your kids, they can take care of themselves. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Yeah, because one thing people don't understand is you're very frugal. That switch is not going to turn off automatically. So it's going to happen by you getting comfortable with your investment. So once you learn about this stuff and you're actually doing it, you have to give yourself a break. So if you want to remodel your kitchen, if you want to buy, for example, a new car, you're able to do those things, right? Because you can save up that money and then have it. One thing here that I didn't notice by having a conversation with you is that you're waiting for things to accumulate. Don't do that. So when you're getting paid that $3,000, set aside the money for your annual expenses automatically. So $250 for the taxes, $250 for the insurance, and then $250, for example, for your car insurance also. Have that money always on the side. So when it does happen, when it does come, you're not surprised. Okay?
Okay. Thank
That's
you.
what I would do. That's the only thing I saw with your schedule that kind of like lacks. Okay?
Awesome. Thank you so much for
Awesome.
explaining it.
I am proud of you, Michelle. You are doing amazing. You're doing great. You're 52, 54.
52.
52 years old, paid off mortgage, $130,000 in potential investment money. Great job that you have. You can have your pension, Social Security. You're going to be doing awesome. And remember, right? Retirement doesn't have to be, for example, I retired, I never work again. On average, people that do that, they die early because they have nothing to do. So
Yes, I've heard about that.
yeah. I heard about that too, right? So
Yes.
yeah, if you can, it's a time for you to just basically focus on doing something that you're actually passionate about, whether it's traveling, doing missions, just doing whatever you want to do, but use your time wisely. Does that make sense?
Yes, will do.
Yeah. All right. So thank you so much for joining.
Thank
I hope I answered
you.
all your questions, and
Yes, you
you
did.
have
You're
nothing to
fantastic.
worry about. You have nothing to worry about.
Fantastic. It's nice
Okay?
talking to you.
All right. Nice talking
Check
to you
you
too.
out.
All
Take
right.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, guys, there. All right, so guys, so that right there was Michelle.